so I need something a little bit light and fluffy. Olivia Blake is one of my absolute favourite authors. I wish this one had been a little bit more slow burn. I did end up going book shopping yesterday and picked up a few books, especially within the first kind of 30 to 35%. There was a lot of telling without showing. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name's Maria, and today's video is just going to be a reading vlog, and really the theme for this one is just going to be new releases slash reading arcs slash continuing series I'm in the middle of, so a little bit of everything. I'm definitely feeling a little bit when it comes to my March TBR. For whatever reason, the last few months I've just been a complete mood reader. I just haven't been able to stick to a TBR, so I'm really just going through the motions of trying to make sure I don't end up in a slump or anything, so trying to just read things that I've been really excited for, so definitely a lot of these new releases are on that list. So the first one that I'm actually reading is Wildside by Elsie Silver. So I've just come off some really heavy reads, so I need something a little bit light and fluffy to get me out of that headspace. Really heavy but really good reads. But yeah, definitely craving something that's a bit more light and fluffy, a bit more easy to digest for the brain. So decided to pick up Wildside, which came out just earlier in this month. I've read Wild Love and Wild Eyes, which are the kind of two interconnected standalones within this romance series, set in a small town. They're all kind of single dad tropes. And with this one in particular, we're following a couple of characters who are, it's a bit of a tricky situation. We've got FMC, whose sister has recently passed and she is taking care of her nephew. However, the landlord of her sister's home has been named legally as the carer for this child, kind of the legal guardian, so they're in a bit of a tricky situation, definitely bumping heads about that. A little bit of attraction there, so I'm about 20% into this one already, so definitely standing up to a lot of the Elsie Silver's books that I've read before and really giving me what I need right now, just a bit of light and fluffy romance. And then the other book I'm reading at the moment, or will be starting to read, is Gifted and Talented by Olivia Blake. So I do have this as an arc. It's out very early in April, so by the time you're seeing this, it's probably not too long until this one's out, probably a couple of days. And Olivia Blake is one of my absolute favourite authors. There's just something about her writing, even though within each series that I've read by her or each book that I've read by her, it is quite different. There's something just within her writing that I absolutely love. So as soon as I seen she was bringing out a book this year, I was really excited, definitely wanted to pick it up, and thankfully got approved for the arc for this one. So I want to try and read that before it comes out, so that's why I'm trying to get that on my TBR now and make sure I pick that one up. So in that one, I believe we're following three kind of rich siblings who are the children of a tech tycoon essentially, and at the start of the story their father passes away, and I believe the story kind of continues from there. I don't think they're meant to be likeable characters. I think they're supposed to be characters that you won't want to root for, you'll probably hate them, a little bit like Atlas 6. If you've read that, most of those characters are pretty unlikable, but by the end of the series, or at least I've only read book 2, you do end up kind of liking them and rooting for them, even though they're maybe not the most likeable people. So guessing there's going to be a little bit of magical realism in there with most of Olivia Blake's books, other than Alone with You in the Ether. Most of them have had kind of a magical realism element, so interested to see how that fits into this one. I've heard this one is definitely like Succession, but make it magical realism. I haven't watched Succession, but if you've watched that show, apparently the book kind of gives those vibes. But really excited to pick that one up and just to read a new book from Olivia Blake, because as I say, she's one of my favourite authors. I don't think I've given any of her books less than 5 stars, so really excited to read that one. And then I'll probably be able to squeeze in another read within this video, but as I say, I'm very much mood reading at the moment, so not sure what that's going to be. I may pick up another arc, or I may try and just continue one of the series that I'm in the middle of. One thing I have found since doing the spreadsheet of the series I'm in the middle of, I almost feel guilty starting new series, so I've been really struggling with TBRs because a lot of the books I picked this month are new series and starting new series, so a spreadsheet is either a blessing or a curse depending on what way you look at it. It may mean that I get through my series more quickly, but it does mean I'm almost having this feeling of guilt if I want to start a new series. So I may just use this month to try and catch up on some of those series, get as many of those read as possible, so that when I get to April I maybe won't feel as guilty picking up some new series. But yeah, for the moment those are the 2 books that I'm going to be reading, so I'll probably read a bit more this evening, and once I've got a bit further into Gifted and Talented I can obviously give you a bit more of my feelings on that. As I say, I'm already about 20% into this one, likely going to be a pretty quick read, these usually are, so I'll maybe jump in once I'm around the 50 to 60% mark in this one, give you my thoughts and feelings of how I'm enjoying it and things like that. And yeah, basically as soon as I have any further updates on my reading, I'll jump on and let you know. video, and I thought while I have my camera set up I'll give you a quick update on my reads. So I'll start with Wildside. So as I said, I was around 20% into that when I first checked in, and I'm around 47% now, so a little bit earlier than I said I would check in. But I think this is definitely akin to the rest of the Elsie Silver books that I've read. The romance and the banter is all really good, but I wish this one had been a little bit more slow burn, and I say it with every romance that I read, but I think this one had the perfect setup to be slow burn because it's two people who essentially don't know each other at the start, but also there's a very big reason why the FMC Tabitha wouldn't like the MMC Reese, because she thinks he's basically responsible for her sister's death. Now, not that he killed her or anything, but the circumstances around it where she thinks he is responsible for it, and I think that was just a perfect recipe to make this a bit more of a slow burn, kind of have that likability develop and then there be some romantic feelings. I just think with this one, the attraction was introduced just too early for me, especially with some of the things. As I say, there was complications in terms of how she thinks he may be partly responsible for her sister's death, as well as the fact at the very, very, very start of this book, she thinks her sister may have been involved with this man. I don't know, as a sister I just kind of think that would make it kind of off limits for me. I wouldn't be looking at this man, but it's a romance. We knew it was going to go there, but I just wish the attraction hadn't been mentioned, or kind of the lust forward discussions hadn't been mentioned until a little bit later in the book. But once you get past that, if you can kind of get past that, I am really enjoying this one. I'm enjoying the relationship that is developing with the characters. I really like the FMC, do relate to her quite a lot. She is a bit of a people pleaser, and she definitely puts other people's needs before herself, and more so the way I can really relate to her is just when she doesn't ask for help. I know that I can be like that. I can be very headstrong and just I'll do it myself. I don't need anybody to help me. So I'm really relating with her on that side of things, and I just really like her as a character. As well as the MMC, I do think he's a great character, and kind of his duality in terms of his personality, because he is a wrestler within this, so you would think kind of big and tough, and he is supposed to be quite grumpy, but when you get his inner monologues you can definitely see that he's incredibly sweet as well. So really liking this, exactly what I needed in terms of a fluffy romance. Elsie Silver usually does deliver when it comes to these things, but as I say, my one gripe is I just wish it was a little bit slower. There was just a little bit more time before the romance was kind of introduced. But yeah, really enjoying that at the moment. And then for Gifted and Talented, honestly for the first 10% of that book I had no idea what was going on. It was a bit of a fever dream. You're kind of really thrown into the chaos, really getting the characterization of the characters kind of slapped in your face with no context as to who this family are, why they are the way they are. The narrator is almost kind of been described as God at one point, so very interesting narration choice. But again with Olivia Blake, her books are always a little on the eccentric side and expect the unexpected, basically. I think this is definitely going to be a bit of a vibes, no plot kind of story, where there is a plot, there's definitely stuff going on, but it's definitely going to be a character study. I don't think we're supposed to like any of these characters, even though I am kind of liking them. Even though they're really unlikable characters, I am loving the characterization that she's giving them, and they're almost like characters that you love to hate. But I may have said in the first update, with this one they're basically a very rich family. Their father was a tech tycoon, and they've basically been quite fractured for quite some time. They don't really have very strong relationships with each other. The characterization of two of the siblings is kind of giving me very much Schitt's Creek vibes, so in terms of the way they are when they first turn up in the small town, that's kind of the vibes they're giving me, because they're rich kids, they have rich kid drama, and as I say, they've kind of been fractured for quite some time in terms of their relationship. And at the very start of the story, their father basically passes away, and we're kind of following the aftermath of that. They all have their own drama going on, they all have their own things going on within their own lives, and we're just kind of watching the fallout of that. So I'm at around 37 to 40% now, starting to get a bit more into the story, starting to understand where we may be going with this, because as I say, for the first 10% I was just lost. I was a bit, where's this story going? I wasn't too sure if it was going to grip me, but I should have had faith. Olivia Blake never does me wrong, so really hoping I'm going to continue to enjoy that one. But it's definitely one of those stories that's kind of keeping me hooked and really making me want to continue reading on chapter after chapter, so I have a sneaking suspicion I may end up loving that one as well. But yeah, those are all the updates for now. It is now Friday, so hopefully I will be able to read those two books relatively quickly. I feel like I've moved through them quite quickly already. I've only really been reading them for kind of a day and a half, and I'm at 40% in both of them, so pretty fast reads. So I'll probably read a little bit more this evening. Should have a good bit of time to have a bit of downtime, and then obviously I do have the weekend, so potentially may finish them tomorrow. If not, I think I'll definitely have them finished by Sunday, but either way, if anything changes I'll probably jump in before I finish them, just to give you my final thoughts and feelings, or if there's been any changes in my feelings I'll jump on and let you know. Lovelies. It's now Monday and I did a terrible job of vlogging over the weekend, and by which I mean I didn't vlog at all. So we didn't really have a busy weekend. We mainly just went out for a few walks. It was a little bit rainy, so we didn't get out as much as we usually would, and to be honest we didn't really do anything exciting. I was literally reading for most of the weekend and I just done a terrible job of vlogging that. So I have now finished both Wild Love and Gifted and Talented, so we will get into the reviews for them. I did end up going book shopping yesterday and picked up a few books to add to my never-ending TBR. You may have seen my entire TBR video. It will have been last week by the time this is posted, so Sunday last week. So it's pretty evident I don't need any books and I don't need to be adding books to my TBR, but I am who I am. I don't see myself changing anytime soon. So first one I picked up was The Ministry of Time, and this one's by Kellyanne Bradley. And this is one that kind of got a lot of buzz around it when it first came out, so I was waiting for it to come out in the paperback because I wasn't sure if it was definitely going to be for me, and I'm glad I did because I really liked the design of these. It was interesting. They had kind of different colour combinations for the book, so you could kind of pick which one you wanted, and I really liked this one, the teal and the pink, so pick this one up. I think it's like a sci-fi kind of almost time travel story. We've got people coming from like the 1800s and they get almost like a buddy within modern day to help them adjust to modern day. And that's all I really know about it, but I've heard it's really good, so definitely intrigued to see what this one's like. Then this next one is The Book of Love by Kelly Link, and this one I was undecided as to whether to pick up because I was looking at it and it sounded intriguing. It's basically about these 3 children who pass away, and 2 of them get the opportunity to come back into the mortal realm and figure out how they died, and if they do then they can return to the living. So it all sounds really good. I'd seen on it has basically blurbs from Cassandra Clare, Leigh Bardugo and Holly Black, and they're 3 of my favourite authors, so I thought this sounds like it's definitely going to be for me. Then I made the mistake of looking on Goodreads, and it doesn't get the best reviews, but one of my goals for 2025 was to not rely on Goodreads and reviews to decide whether a book is something that I want to read. So I decided to pick this up because the Kindle book for it was around £8 anyway, so it was an extra £1 to get the physical copy, and I do kind of prefer physical copies when I can. So yeah, excited to read this one and see what I think of it, hoping that it's one of those ones that I prefer compared to, you know, some of the reviews, but we'll see. Jury's out on this one. And then this last one, My Year of Rest and Relaxation by Tessa Mosef. I'm not too sure how to pronounce that surname, so I'll just hold it up to the screen because I don't want to absolutely butcher that. Again, this one I've heard really mixed things, but I think it's a bit of a character study, and from what I've heard about it and some of the complaints some people had are actually reasons that I think I'm going to like it. I'm pretty sure we're just following this kind of rich girl who is feeling depressed, and we're kind of following her journey into depression, and then I believe maybe out of it, or perhaps not, but definitely one I've had my eye on for quite some time, so decided to pick up a physical copy. But as I say, I have now finished Wildside as well as Gifted and Talented, so I'll start with Wildside because I think it's easier to talk about, and I think I have given some of my thoughts on it already. But basically, other than kind of the insta-lust that we had at the start, I really ended up enjoying this one. I really enjoyed the couple dynamic. I really enjoyed how they kind of worked with each other. Even though there was a lot of insta-lust within this one, I do think that we kind of seen the progression within the relationship from that point to, you know, when feelings were being developed. I think overall I just really liked the characters within this one. I could kind of really relate with the main female character. I think I said before, you know, she's a bit of a people pleaser, and I just really relate with how she was feeling and kind of the pressures that she puts on herself. I think a lot of us can probably relate to that, and also the main male character, I just really liked him as, you know, a potential book boyfriend. He was definitely up there. I think for me it's still sitting at around a 3.5, even though it did kind of get better as I read on. It's just not one of those books that I think I'm going to have a lasting impact from. You know, with the Chestnut Springs ones, they've definitely left a really lasting impression on me. I don't feel like I got that same feeling with this one, and as I'm not really, you know, a huge romance reader, it could just be subjective. So I think if you like Elsie Silver, you're going to love this one. I think it's probably one of the better out of the 3 within this Rose Hill Ranch series. Probably one of my favourite couples. It's between this couple and the couple from Wild Love, so Rosie and Ford. Between those 2, they're probably my favourites. The second book I wasn't too fussed about. And the 4th book I believe is coming out in September, and it is following a couple of characters within this, but for some reason I'm blanking and I don't even feel like we've met them within the other books because the rest of them are quite intermingled within the story, but I'm guessing we have, I just can't remember. So I'll probably read that one as well, see how I feel about it, and just to round out this series because I believe that is the last one within this series. Yeah, glad to have updated my series spreadsheet as well with this, so it's kind of lifted me from 43% to 45% in terms of completion for my series, so happy to have read this one. And then for Gifted and Talented, I did really enjoy this one, but I am kind of sad because it's the first non-5-star review I'm going to be giving for Olivia Blake. It's still a really good review, but I'm a little bit sad that I've kind of broken that 5-star streak. It's basically everything I've read from her before has been 5 stars, so I've landed on a 4.25. It's not quite 4, but it's definitely not quite 4.5, so for whatever reason I'm giving a 4.25. And this one I definitely don't think it's going to be for everybody. I do think that Olivia Blake has quite a unique style of writing, and certainly for some of her books it's a lot more chaotic than others, and I think this is definitely an example of one of those. It was quite messy, as I say, the plot was pretty chaotic. It's following three siblings who I think I mentioned before, they're not particularly likeable, but by the end of the story I did actually have a really soft spot for all of them, and even though a lot of their struggles and worries are pretty surface level, I still kind of felt sorry for them in certain situations. So as I say, I definitely don't think this will be for everyone. It's definitely a bit of a vibes over plot story. It's very, very character driven. We basically are just evaluating these characters within the story, evaluating these siblings and some of the people who are around them. I think the pacing wasn't quite consistent in certain times, and we definitely did a few jumps, you know, back and forward to things that happened in the past and things that were happening now, and I think that could be pretty jarring for a lot of people. So if that sounds like it's not your thing, I definitely say to steer away from this one, because it's not kind of a linear plot that you're going to follow. And there were quite a few wacky elements in there as well. Obviously there is a magical realism side of it, and I don't want to say what it is because it does kind of give some spoilers for some of the plot, but for me it kind of felt natural within the story, but for a lot of people it may be quite jarring because it is quite heavily used as a plot device. So just putting it out there that I don't think this will be for everyone, but it certainly was for me. I did still really enjoy it. I think my favourite part about the story was kind of the dynamic between the siblings, and on the face of it you can kind of think at the start that they really hate each other, you know, there's no love lost there. But as we go through the story you do kind of realise that they do have love for each other, but they just don't show it in a conventional way, and they maybe don't feel it in a conventional way because they're really strained by this generational trauma from their father, and they carry the weight of his judgment on their shoulders, you know, to be the best at what they do, and it really has impacted their lives in all different ways and led them to where they are now. Even though I live kind of worlds apart from the oldest daughter within the story, I did kind of really relate to some of the things that she was going through in terms of the themes, certainly not the situations in particular, but in terms of the themes of being an oldest daughter, I think it was definitely displayed in here really, really well, and I definitely identified with some of the things that she was feeling. So as I say, even though some of the characters weren't likeable, I think by the end of it you do end up loving them. So yeah, I think the only reason I didn't give this one a 5 stars because it just didn't have that 5-star feeling, and it's really hard to explain that. It just isn't one that I think I'm going to be obsessed with going forward, whereas the rest of the books that I've read from Olivia Blake have been that this is my new obsession, you know, for the next couple of weeks. This is all I'm going to be thinking about. This one, I do think it was a great read and I do definitely recommend it, but just don't think it was on par with some of my favourites from her. And I mean, I've read quite a lot of books from her so far, so her average is still going to be like 4.75 or something like that, so still up there with my favourite authors. So now that I've finished those, I do need to pick what my next read will be, and I honestly have no clue what to read next. I probably will try and keep it as another new release or one that I've been anticipating. Kind of fits in with the theme for this video, so just going to have a look at my shelves, see what I have there, and come back and let you know which one I've chosen. Okay, so I had a quick look to see what books I have been anticipating, and one that's kind of jumped out to me is this one by Emily Wen Zhao, and that is The Scorpion and the Night Blossom. And the reason this jumped out to me is because I did actually have an arc for this one and just very sadly didn't get to it. It was only supposed to be out, you know, this month, so I'm only a couple of weeks late, but I really hate not getting to read them before the book's released. But the reason I didn't read it is because I was having a slump and I didn't want to read it and give it a bad review based on that, so it's just meant that I haven't picked it up. But if I read it now, I'll only be a couple of weeks late and I'll be able to get a review up for it, which isn't too bad. So yeah, I think I'll pick this one up. It was a Fairy Loot subscription box this month, and I think this is the adult box, I'm pretty sure. And I haven't read anything by this author, but I do have quite a few books by her, and I've heard some great things about her writing as well. But in this one it basically just says, the immortality trials offer a second chance in a brutal world and are open to any mortal willing to risk the journey to the immortal realm. The prize for completing them is eternal life. However, they must survive. Anne Ying knows the prize can heal her dying mother, and that she'll need all the help she can get if she's to complete them. But when a rival contestant, both powerful and handsome, promises protection and a chance of survival for both An Ying and her mother, she will need to find out quickly whether she can truly trust the stranger she's falling for, or if he's the most dangerous player of all, for herself and all the realms. So pretty sure this is a romantasy, pretty sure it's obviously between those two strangers. Not sure if there's going to be a twist in the end or anything like that, but definitely sounds like it's right up my street. I'm still kind of in the mood for something that's a bit less heavy, so hoping this may give me some romance themes. And I think just when you look at the end papers, the art is definitely enticing me to read this one. I feel like there's going to be some really beautiful imagery in here, so yeah, really excited to start this one. Definitely one that piqued my interest, so this will be the next book that we read in this vlog. Hi Lovelies, so it's the next day and I just want to give you a quick update on my reading progress. So I've got a protective cover on the book, but just a quick reading update on the Scorpion and the Night Blossom. So I'm on chapter 18, which is around 52% or something like that, so I am reading this quite quickly. I think obviously, as I said yesterday, we're following our main character who has went off to try and participate within these trials to win what is called kind of this immortal pill to give to her mother, because her mother has been quite sick for some time. Basically, when she was a child, there were these demons that came to their home, called the Moi, I believe, who killed her father and left her mum incredibly sick as well. So basically within this land there are kind of people who are called practitioners who kind of defend the towns and the townships from these demons, and our main character has kind of been training to become one of those, or has kind of participated in that for most of her life. But as I say, her mother is incredibly sick and I think she has around 6 months to live. So she wants to participate within these trials to try and get that immortality pill for her. Now when she's about to get the convoy to go to these trials, she ends up turning up and bumping into our MMC, and the way that they meet is definitely very well done when it comes to enemies to lovers. I do think that that was really well done. I did like the way that it was executed there. I will say with this, I do think that the pacing is incredibly fast, and usually I am not bothered by a fast-paced plot, you know, that's usually what most people want, but I think with this one it's almost too fast to the point where we're just not sitting in certain moments for long enough, and especially within the first kind of 30 to 35% there was a lot of telling without showing. And for me personally as a reader, I just prefer to be kind of in the moment rather than told what happened afterwards. So especially when it comes to the MMC and the FMC, we were kind of told that they travelled for quite some time together, but I feel like those are the moments that we see the relationship building and we see the connection between the two, because at this point in the book you can kind of see that they do know each other, but I don't feel that we've really seen that within the first 50% because it was just kind of told to us. So that would be a couple of my critiques. I do think it's just almost too fast paced. I feel like we're glossing over certain things. There are side characters in this, but at the moment I don't feel like I know them, so I don't really care about them. But in terms of the romance and the way that it's building, it's entertaining, but it's definitely, I don't think, going to be a new favourite for me. I don't think it's kind of reinventing the wheel when it comes to romantasy and trials and things like that. There's still quite a way to go, so that could change, but so far I do think it's very formulaic and nothing new from what I've read before. I am really enjoying kind of the Chinese mythology and the lore that's in here. It is definitely making it very rich and immersive, and I do think that that's being done quite well. I can really visualise the places where we are. But yeah, just not connecting to the characters as much as I would like to, and I do think it's because of that pacing and just because we're getting told a lot of things rather than being shown it. But again, still quite a bit of the book to go, so that could change. But yeah, I'm kind of flying through this. I think I may even be able to finish this today depending on how much I can get read and how much time I have to read, but it's quite a short book. I think there's only like 400 pages within this Fairy Loot edition, and I mean the font is absolutely huge, so I don't think it'll take me too long to read through this. So unless anything comes up in it that I really kind of want to give you an update on, I'll probably come back once I finish this one and give you kind of my final thoughts and feelings. And depending on how much footage I have for this vlog, I may end up adding another book, or this may be the last one, but I'll let you know once I come on with my next update. Lovelies. So I have now finished The Scorpion and the Night Blossom, so just jumping on to give you kind of my final thoughts on this one, and I think this is a case of this just wasn't for me. I don't think this was a bad book, but I do think that just the style of the storytelling meant that I could never really connect with this one. In terms of what I did like about this one, I really liked the imagery that we were given within this. I do think that the author was quite skilled in describing the area that they were in or the scene. It always felt really lush, really immersive, and as I say, I could really visualise where we were. And I really loved kind of some of the snippets of the Chinese mythology and lore that were thrown in there, because it just did add to that kind of whimsical and magical feeling throughout the book. So in terms of the writing style on that side of things, it wasn't an issue. It was more so the storytelling style that was an issue for me, and I think it is because there was a lot of telling rather than showing. So there was a lot of things being reiterated to characters as just a bit of an info dump, you know, especially at the start in terms of the two characters meeting and us not really seeing their journey to getting to know one another. And I think that at its core is why I didn't connect with this one, because I didn't feel connected to the characters at the start. And I think a main part of this story is you really need to love these characters, you really need to feel connected to them, and you really need to care about them. And unfortunately I just didn't get that with the way that the story was told, and especially with like side characters. To be quite honest, there was a few in here and I've only just finished this book and I can't remember their names or who they were or why they were in the story. So I think they were just kind of thrown there to be in the story. There wasn't really any importance to them from my perspective. So yeah, I think just overall I think that's the main issue with this one. I just didn't connect to it at all, and I do think it's because of that style of storytelling. And I think on that point this could have benefited from being maybe even, you know, double the length. This copy is around 400 pages and I think the normal kind of published copy is under 400 pages, and I think this could have benefited definitely from being around 500 pages and letting us sit in some of those moments that we kind of glossed over or we were just told about in a couple of paragraphs in the next chapter. And I think that would have added the depth that I wanted from this story, because everything else was kind of ticking all the boxes. You know, I loved the whimsical feel of it. It kind of had a dark side to it. I loved the lore that was in here. We just didn't have enough time to connect to these characters and to actually care about them, so events that were happening later in the story just had no impact or fell flat for me. I think this is also supposed to be an adult novel, and for me it did read very YA, and it's not a criticism towards YA or anything, but I just think because I was expecting a more adult theme, it felt a little bit juvenile. If you told me the characters within here were around 16, it would have felt like the same story. And again, I just think that overall that meant I couldn't connect with the characters because they weren't kind of tallying up with what I was being told. But yeah, I think overall it wasn't poorly written or anything. I don't think the writing style was bad in here in terms of, you know, the descriptions and things like that. It was just the storytelling that really let me down with this one, so I ended up rating this one 3 stars. Not sure if I'm going to continue with the series, to be quite honest, because I don't think I care enough about the characters or the story to carry on, even though there was a twist at the end. It was all pretty predictable, kind of seen it coming from a mile off, and as I say, I wasn't connected to the characters, so it wasn't kind of a gasp moment. It was just a okay, that happened. So yeah, unfortunately this one just didn't work for me, but don't let that put you off from reading it if you think you would like the story, because I do think the writing was really beautiful. It just wasn't the storytelling style that I personally prefer. So yeah, 3 star for this one. So that's everything for this week. I think I'm going to leave it there. I have kind of edited the footage that I had for this week and it's already hitting quite a long point, so probably just going to leave it there. I did actually start another book. So I started The Shadow of the Fox by Julie Kagawa, and this one so far is really good. This one is sitting with the moments. This one is giving me what I want in terms of the world building and helping us connect to the characters, making us love them. So I'm only around 30% into this one, but I'm definitely really enjoying it so far. But if you want to see what I think about this one, it'll be in my wrap up, which will probably be up next week. But yeah, that's everything for this week. So I think overall it was a pretty successful week. I know that the last book wasn't really one of my favourites, but it wasn't a terrible book by any means, and it meant I was able to tick off an arc that I had on my list and read one of my subscription books, so it's still a win. And obviously Gifted and Talented, I really loved that one. It was 4.25. And then Wildside as well. Sitting with it, I did really enjoy that story, so I might actually up the rating for that one from 3.5 to 4, because I know I said that it wouldn't have a lasting impression on me, but I have kind of been thinking about it over the last few days, so it just shows sometimes your initial knee-jerk reactions aren't exactly what you'll end up feeling about a certain book or a certain story. But yeah, as I say, overall I think it has been a successful week of reading. Let me know what you've been reading recently and any of your new faves. I'm always looking for new options for my TBR, so definitely let me know what you've been reading in the comments below. And if you like this video, do remember to give it a like, and if you want to see more from me, remember to subscribe. I post 2 videos per week and it's videos like this, so reading vlogs, TBR jars, book shopping, book hauls, all good bookish things like that. Other than that, thanks so much for watching this one. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next one soon. Bye!